Hi, this is Dave Hurwitz at ClassicsToday.com here to talk to you about a splendid recording, relatively new recording, of a neglected masterpiece, the Requiem of Antoni Dvorak. It features Antoni Witt conducting the Warsaw Philharmonic Orchestra and Choir with a first-rate team of Polish soloists, including an alto, Eva Volak, who really is excellent. Dvorak gives a lot to the alto to sing, and one of the most wonderful things about her is that she doesn't sound like she just walked out of like a Gilbert and Sullivan operetta. She's not a what they call the British oratorio contralto with that large hooty voice that Anna Russell parodied so well. But we'll get to this performance a little more in a minute. Let me talk about the work. There are, of course, three great Requiem settings in the latter half of the 19th century: the Verdi, the Brahms, and the Dvorak, which is quite a ways behind the other two in terms of popularity and recognition. I've never quite understood the reason for that. In terms of musical quality, it isn't in any way inferior. All of Dvorak's sacred music is incredibly sincere in expression and masterly in its composition. He really was a tremendous composer of sacred music, and of course, as a devout Catholic, he put his heart into everything that he did in that field. It was written for England, which is probably one of the problems it has in terms of its reputation now, because nothing has aged more seriously than works composed in the British oratorio tradition. But of course, all of Dvorak's compositions were written not for England in the English style, but in his own style for international consumption. I actually think that the problem with the Requiem, which is a late work, 1891, I mean, right between the Eighth and the New World Symphony, it's vintage Dvorak, is the fact that, first of all, Dvorak has a reputation as this sort of jolly, bucolic composer who was incapable of writing music of serious profundity and depth, which is a terrible, terrible thing to say about the man and totally untrue. And second of all the Requiem settings, it's not consoling. I mean, one of the things that's so fascinating about it is that the music is symphonically constructed. It begins with a death motive, a chromatic motive that recurs in all of the movements. Joseph Suk used it in his Azrael Symphony as one of the main motives there, and it symbolizes death quite literally. Dvorak was pretty clear about that, and that's how the piece ends. There's no ultimate consolation or easeful, grant them light, let them rest eternally, everything is going to work out okay ending, as you hear in the Brahms or the Verdi. Instead, the end is bleak and very cold. And it really comes as something of a shock if you actually take the music seriously and listen to what Dvorak is trying to say. At the end, it just drains away into a sort of numb feeling of grief, and it's quite shocking, actually, coming from Dvorak. I mean, the piece that I've always thought it resembles the most in terms of its emotional curve is the Mahler's Sixth Symphony. It's tragic. It's genuinely tragic. But between the beginning and the ending, there is a lot of wonderful music. Especially, the work is in two parts, and each part is sort of supported by two huge choral pillars that get repeated. In the second part, it's the Quam Olim Abrahe fugue. In the first part, it's the Dies Irae choruses. And it really is beautifully put together with a lot of excellent writing for the soloists. The choruses are wonderful. It's Dvorak. It's got great tunes. So why it isn't more popular is a complete mystery to me, other than the fact, again, that it's Dvorak and it has that bleak ending. Now, there have been, historically speaking, two really great recordings of the Requiem, although there are more out there. And these were, first of all, the classic Karel Ančerl Czech Philharmonic recording on Supraphon, which I don't know what's happened to the Karel Ančerl legacy. Supraphon is sort of in limbo right now. They're doing new recordings, but their back catalog exploitations seem to have ceased, and that Supraphon Gold edition with Ančerl is out of print. It's gone. So Whether you can find it or not, it's anybody's guess. The other really, really good one was Istvan Kertész with the London Symphony, which is only available in this chunky box right now, although you might be able to find it in its old two-for release. Be that as it may, those are two excellent recordings, and this one with Antoni Witt absolutely joins them. As I talked about in my discussion of his recording of the Mahler Eighth, Witt is an absolutely spectacular conductor of choral music. He really understands how to keep it moving, to keep textures transparent, to create colorful and evocative balances between the orchestra and the chorus. I mean, he's really, really, really good. And as I said at the beginning, he's got a terrific team of soloists, and the sonics are excellent, as are most of the Naxos productions from this source. So if you're looking for a Dvorak Requiem, and you should get to know it if you don't know it, it's an extraordinarily beautiful piece, and this is an exceptionally fine new recording. It's definitely one to own. Thank you, and keep on listening, folks.